And, you mentioned WCW. When you end up going to WCW, a match that feels like it's a big point in your career is the Super Brawl 8 match with Juventud Guerrera, mask versus title. For you, because you were in WCW, you were a babyface, and then eventually you turn heel, and you have this epic match with Juvi, and he loses the mask. How important is that match to you, and how big do you think that is to your run there?
Well, Bischoff was going through this phase where he didn't want the luchadors to have masks. He didn't think the masks mattered. So if you remember, that was the time when he made, Juventud lose his mask. He made Rey Mysterio lose his mask. Like, just decisions that you look back at now and go, what the But I always had great chemistry with Juventud, and we always had great matches. And this was, once again, this amazing match at Super Brawl, where if he lost, he would have to take his mask off. And I built it up because he's actually a pretty good-looking guy. So I was going opposite and telling people how ugly he was. He looks like Quasimodo. He's Quasi-Juice. He's ugly. He's hideous. I saw him with his mask off. I almost threw up. So when he did finally take his mask off, people would go, what's he talking about? He's a good-looking guy, whatever it may be. So that was kind of a big deal because taking a mask from a luchador is kind of the ultimate sign of disrespect to do that. But it's good. It was good heat for me, and that's when I started doing the collector gimmick, where I would take something from every opponent that I had, which was like Quasi-Juice's mask and Disco Inferno's headband, which was just like a string or something. Prince Nakamaki's Mahi Mahi, which is a lava lava. I couldn't pronounce anything right back then. So I would have all of these kind of collector's items that I would steal from people after I beat them. And Juventud's mask was a big deal, and it actually helped him because people could see his face now. And in Mexico, masks meant so much more than they did in the States. And the biggest thing with wrestling is seeing people's facial expressions when they're doing a match. And with Juvi's mask off, he got a lot more babyface sympathy because of that. And that's basically, I think, the indirect reason as to why Bischoff wanted him to lose the mask. But that was a really big deal. And it's funny because I remember I was doing this shtick where I would wear the belt as long as I could during a match. I've never seen anybody do that. I would wear the belt. I'm not taking this belt off. It's my belt. And then something would happen where the heel would kick me in the stomach. And you'd be like, you'd fall down. And then you got to take the back. So there's stuff like that I remember doing that I still haven't seen. It was just this real obnoxious, over-the-top heel. And once again, just throwing darts at a board, trying anything I could to try and get over because there was so much emphasis on the NWO side of things that a guy like me could just basically do whatever he wanted and nobody would say anything. So that's what I did, and it kind of started working.
And then, right after that, you have the series with Dean Malenko. And Dean Malenko, who maybe didn't show a lot of charisma in his face a lot of the time on screen, you kind of took advantage of that in character, and it became this kind of fun rivalry that you guys had, the uncensored match in Slamboree. And I mean, even with him in the mask and him taking it off, that feud feels like a really important one, and those matches feel like they were another building block for you to get bigger.
Well, the thing about Dean is he's very stone-faced, but he's super funny. He's the king of one-liners backstage. I remember Brian Knobbs was walking backstage with really skimpy thong underwear on, and Dean goes, "That's not a G-string, that's the whole alphabet." And then we go to a strip club, and there's a really skinny stripper. He goes, "I don't know whether to tip her $1 or food stamps." Just like that, constantly throwing them at you. So, but in the ring, he was very serious. But the thing with the Malenko angle that worked is, once again, we had great chemistry, and we were just doing whatever we could to try and, keep our heads above water because there was so much emphasis on the NWO. And I think it really helped me in my later career to know that if you got TV time, it doesn't matter how long, how short it is, winning, losing, whatever, you got to make it good. And you got to make it something that people are going to remember and be excited to see. And I always say that to people, the kids, nowadays in AEW or something, so-and-so's angry that he has to lose a match. And it's like, I lost a match in 32 seconds to Sergeant Craig Pittman at the Superdome in New Orleans on Nitro. You think I wanted to do that? You guys even know who Sergeant Craig Pittman is? No, you don't. And I lost to him in 32 seconds in front of 40,000 people. But I had to do something to get remembered. So I remember there was a kid in the front row, and I grabbed the kid, and I held him on my shoulders and looked at the camera and smiled, and people were like, that was so cool when you held up that kid. What a great guy. And like at least in this 32-second loss to Sergeant Craig Pittman, there was something positive from it. So the Malenko thing that was really cool is that Dean's wife was having a baby, so he was going to be gone for 3 months. And I was the guy that was going to put him out. And then I had to keep the angle rolling when he wasn't even on TV. How do you do that? How do you do an angle with someone that's not even there for 3 months? Well, I figured it out, and I just came up with all these different ideas. I remembered I went to a photocopy place, like a photo place, and I asked them for the biggest poster-sized Dean Malenko picture that I could get. And they said, we got you covered. And I come back, and they give me this is the size of the picture. And I'm like, I need something bigger. Like, that's the biggest we got. It's not big enough. So I finally found a place that made this big, giant Dean Malenko poster. And I put it in a frame and put it on an easel. And I interviewed Dean Malenko, because the poster has as much personality as the real Dean Malenko does. So I'd be like, so Dean, what are you going to do to Chris Jericho when he comes back? Ah, exactly. And what do you, and just standing there completely straight, playing it straight, and people are going like, well, this guy's such a I was talking about his dead father and all these other things. But the best part was, because I had no stroke in WCW, I couldn't put the easel on the production truck. I had to carry the easel with me everywhere I went. You can't check an easel at baggage claim. So I would get on the plane and, sit in the back, middle seat smoking, and I have my stupid easel, sorry, sir, and open it up and fit the easel in there. And it's like, why do you have an easel? It's like, don't worry about it. It's a long story. Show up at work with my stupid easel. But I mean, once again, if I don't bring an easel, who's going to bring an easel, right? So you got to do it, right? So anyways, that kind of was a real good test for me, because all of those Malenko matches we had were great. Like, all of them were great. But the whole angle and the whole storyline really taught me, like, you have to make the most out of it, and you got to squeeze as much as you can out of this to keep people entertained, knowing that Dean's not going to be there. And then we finally do this match against, I think it was against Hoovy for the Cruiserweight title. And the winner of a battle royal gets the shot for the Cruiserweight title, right? And I think, no, sorry, I was the Cruiserweight champion. So the winner of the battle royal gets a shot for the Cruiserweight championship against me. That's what it was. So they do the battle royal, and I'm like, my job was to announce the guys as they came to the ring. And I'm just burying everybody. Like, if you watch it back now, I'm the heel, but I'm the worst heel ever. I'm just, like, every single guy that comes down, I'm telling jokes, like Silver King with, enough frequent flyer points, he's going to become Gold King. And, the winner of the Lou Ferrigno Incredible Hulk Lookalike Contest, El Dandy, and all these different things that I was saying. And the point being was, I was trying to keep it entertaining, because these guys had nameless, faceless, no real character. And there was a guy in the company called Halloween, who was not a great wrestler. But he had a cool-looking costume with a mask. And so what we thought was, let's have Dean return, but we can't just put a masked wrestler and just call him something. The guy that we had down there was called El Grillo, which is the cricket. And where that came from is Eddie Guerrero used to call his Johnson a cricket. Why is that? Because he would take his Johnson and slap it in the side of his thigh and go. So it was El Grillo. So we had some jobber guy. We got a mask costume made, and this is El Grillo. So people think, like, that's Dean Malenko. He's totally going to be El Grillo. It's like this guy. And then we had Halloween. But what we did was, the swerve was that El Grillo was just somebody else, got thrown out. And at the end of the match, Juventud and Halloween are the last two, and Juventud just jumps over the top to the floor. And so everyone's like, what's up with this? And I get in the ring ready for my title match, and I'm looking at the timekeeper or whatever, and now Halloween unmasks, and it's Dean Malenko, who we haven't seen for 3 months. And the crowd went bananas. I'll never forget. It was one of the loudest reactions, probably the loudest reactions Dean ever got. I'm not saying that in a cut down. People were losing their mind because they didn't see it coming. And that's the coolest part of wrestling. When you guys don't see it coming, and afterwards you go, that's so cool. We thought it was El Grillo, but it was Halloween. This is great. And then he beats me up, pins me, and wins the match like, in 30 seconds or whatever it was. That, to me, was the best Dean Malenko, Chris Jericho match, not from a technical standpoint, but from a whole storyline and an angle. And it worked so well that it's still, to this day, one of the classic moments of my career.